And welcome back to another episode of Born to Talk About Sports. I am your host, the one and only Stephen Bourne, and today will be the my Super Bowl preview. You got the 14 and 3 Philadelphia Eagles versus the 14 and 3 Kansas City Chiefs. Philly was the number one seed in the NFC. Kansas City was, I guess, the half seed because they played more games than Buffalo. But after what we saw with what Cincinnati did to Buffalo, I'm assuming Cincinnati probably would have won that Monday nighter if it wasn't for the Damar Hamlin, I guess, incident tragedy. I mean, thank God he didn't pass away, but the game was stopped. But since he was rolling in that game, and probably after what we saw in the division series, probably would have rolled over Buffalo that night. So yeah, I mean, what else to say? These teams are so evenly matched. It's actually kind of scary. Right. Last I saw, the bookmakers had Philly by a point and a half, but I've also seen Kansas City by a point and a half. So it's definitely a bit of a toss up here. You've got, like I said, two of the best quarterbacks in the league. You've got Patrick Mahomes, who's probably still the best quarterback in the league. I mean, the guy who loses probably arguably the top receiver in the league, Tyreek Hill. And what does he do? Goes to the Super Bowl. No biggie. I mean, replaced it with basically he was replaced with Juju Smith-Schuster, who left Pittsburgh. And I mean, Juju's a pretty damn good receiver, but he's not in the category of a Tyreek Hill or a Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams. You know, the elite receivers. Or you look on the other side, AJ Brown, who Philly got a draft day trade from the Tennessee Titans. Jalen Hurts gets his number one receiver, and they're in the Super Bowl. I mean, but let's face it, the Eagles have probably had one of the easiest routes to the Super Bowl ever. Excuse me. I mean, they were in a tough division. I'll give them that. With Dallas and the Giants, who had a great resurgence this year with Coach of the Year Brian Daboll, former Bills offensive coordinator, and even the Washington Commanders. Just don't like that name. Um, we're no pushovers this year either, but Philly had a really, I mean, their two games to the Super Bowl, let's face it, weren't all that tough. The Giants were happy just to get to win a playoff game, and then they faced the Niners in the NFC Championship, and their third string quarterback Brock Purdy tears his UCL ligament in his elbow and is going to require Tommy John surgery and is all out for next year. In case anyone doesn't know, Tommy John surgery is essentially they take a ligament from your leg and put it into your elbow. Major pitchers in baseball get it pretty frequently. Recovery time is usually 12 to 14 months. Um, but yeah, no. So I mean, the playoff run for Philly is they've gotten breaks to come their way. I mean, they haven't really faced any true adversity yet. Kansas City, on the other hand, their first playoff game, they faced an upstart Jacksonville team, and in the first quarter, Mahomes gets a high ankle sprain, makes the game close, and but Jacksonville just didn't have enough, and Kansas City, they're veterans. They're not going to even with Chad Henne in there for a little bit, and then Mahomes with a heavily taped up ankle, and you still basically can give it off to Juju, give it off to the best tight end in the game, Travis Kelce, and and with a decent running game, should be able enough to beat Jacksonville in the playoffs. And sure enough, it was a lot closer than it should be. It was 27-20, but they made it. And then they faced upstart Bengals team, who probably went in with being a little cocky, considering they won three straight against the Chiefs, including the AFC Championship last year. But Kansas City, or not Kansas City, sorry, Cincinnati, couldn't get out of their own way. It was 2020. Mahomes was clearly out of bounds. You give him a shove in the back, puts him in field goal range. I mean, argue what you want about, oh, the refs are always favoring Kansas City. Well, let's face it. It's Patrick Mahomes. He's basically the new Tom Brady of the league. Anytime he wants a flag, 9 times out of 10 he's going to get it. I mean, how many times have you seen him on a 3rd and 10 throw an incomplete pass and look to the ref and just go point, throw the flag down, and sure enough, boom, flag is up. So when you're facing, when basically back in the day when you were facing Brady during his runs and Manning to an extent and Favre and hell go back, you almost have to play a perfect game in the playoffs to beat quarterbacks like that. You know the refs are looking for to call flags against you. It's part of the game, unfortunately. It's like basketball as well. You know LeBron's going to get his calls. You know James Harden is going to get his calls. And here's the same with Patrick Mahomes. You know if there's any sort of contact on a deep pass, you know he's going to get that pass interference call. So, and then when you do a blatantly obvious penalty like that, it's going to cost you. And sure enough, it did. Puts the Chiefs in field goal range. Butker does his thing, and they're off to the Super Bowl. So that's the quick recap of how the both teams got to the Super Bowl. Chiefs a lot tougher road than the Eagles, but both are deserving to go. I mean, like you say, you don't go 14-3 in the regular season by flukes. One cool stat about this is the first time you've got two quarterbacks of color facing each other in the Super Bowl, and you also have the brothers Kelsey, tight ends on Philly and Kansas City, facing each other in the Super Bowl. So it's going to be a lot to keep your eye on, especially with the new single game bettings. I'm sure everybody's TV, phone, everything has been blowing up with betting odds. If it's from all the gambling sites, I'm not going to give any mention on here because ever since, at least here in Ontario, since single game betting came in, I guess about just over a year ago or so, we've seen the ads with Gretzky, with Jamie Foxx, Connor McDavid, Dan O'Toole, formerly of TSN, Jerome Bettis, guys like that who were just money, I guess, or were given so much money they couldn't say no. And so they said like over 50 million Americans at least are going to put at least a wager on the Super Bowl. And then you've got Gronk with the quote unquote kick of destiny thing as well. It's getting, to me, it's getting a little too much. But again, I think this is the new reality we live in. And I mean, I remember when people started laughing at the prop bets about 15, 20 years ago when it's like, oh, you can bet what the first play of the game is going to be, if it's going to be a run or a pass, or what the first score is. I mean, if it's going to be a field goal, touchdown, or safety. But those days of mocking those prop bets are gone now, when you can bet on literally everything. How long the national anthem is going to go, heads or tails, how late in the game until the smoke from the opening pyro clears. It's getting a little ridiculous. But going back quickly, go back to the game. I do think it's going to be a close one. The numbers indicate it should be, providing nobody gets seriously hurt. I mean, last year the Rams lost Odell Beckham Jr. with a torn ACL, but luckily they still had enough guns that, I mean, Cooper Kupp, enough said, to beat the Cincinnati Bengals in what was actually quite an entertaining Super Bowl last year. I'm just hoping, as a football fan, I'm hoping for the same this year. I just hope for Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and Epinesa and the gang that the spotlight's not too big. It doesn't seem like it, but it will be fun to watch. I really don't know what else to say here. I'm gonna here. I guess here's my pick. I'm gonna say Philly wins. I'm gonna go 33-30. I think it will be a bit of a high scoring game. I think the over under right now is around 50-51. I would take the over on that. Both teams have pretty damn good offenses. I don't think Mahomes' ankle injury is going to be too much of a bother. That was that was 3 weeks ago, and with the medical treatment he's going to get, it would be probably the best that anybody can get who's not a leader of a first world country. So I don't think Mahomes' ankle injury should be an issue unless it does get stepped on again. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to say 33-30 Eagles win their second Super Bowl in franchise history. And so next week, pitchers and catchers report Major League Baseball, and also the World Baseball Classic starts or has come out. And I've got a few things to say about the World Baseball Classic, classic being in quotations. But that's for next week. And if anyone's wondering what football jersey this is, I'm going to shout out to my Uncle Nigel out in Alberta. Back in the day, when he lived in Northern California, he went to a San Francisco Demons XFL game in 2001 and brought me back this sweet San Francisco Demons jersey. So that's what this is. It's San Francisco Demons from the original XFL in 2001. So yeah, it's a little snug, but it still fits, still nice and loose. But yeah, so enjoy the game, enjoy the Super Bowl. If you drink, please don't drive, and let's just all have a good time. And if you're out at a party, spend the night or take a cab, Uber, whatever, and get home safe. And I'll see you guys next week.